but just a little bit about my background. So Cloud Elements, I'm a co-founder and CEO. It's my third startup that I've been a part of. I spent most of the 90s working at Oracle. Did another startup, left with a bunch of Oracle execs. They say you need to have about 2 years for every year you've worked at Oracle to become a normal person again. So I'm just about at that point after spending about 8 years there. And but my last company was a company called Channel Insight, which is it's the largest aggregator of point-of-sale and inventory data for companies that sell through those reseller and distribution channels. We had to connect and collect real-time inventory and sales data from thousands of resellers and distributors worldwide. In order to do that, there's very few that use EDI. Most of them we needed to connect to their CRM and accounting systems. So we wrote all these integrations one at a time. We tried integration platforms like MuleSoft and Boomi and things like that. And we felt none of them were really built for the SaaS vendor, for the application provider to make their application work with lots of cloud services and applications used by your customers. And so what we decided to do with Cloud Elements is we got the inspiration that there was really a market opportunity to build a platform to make it easier to consume APIs. And if you really think about where the world of API management has been, it's been about publishing an API, producing an API, getting your API to the market so people can integrate to your application. Well, what's happened is developers have figured out really well how to publish APIs and introduce APIs, but now the challenge has actually gone from just publishing APIs to consuming APIs. How do I adopt and integrate and consume this myriad of APIs that don't all work together as an end customer, as an application provider at all sides to make that happen? So that was, again, having lived it when we built Channel Insight, that was our inspiration for, there's an opportunity for a new type of API management platform. It's really about how to consume APIs and make things work together. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So I got to since it's late in the day or whatever, I'll do a little quiz. So for the gamblers out here, I'm going to do an over-under. So so I'm going to set the over-under at 10. So how many believe that a typical small business, and I'm going to define a small business as under 250 employees, uses less than 10 SaaS applications? Raise hands. Under 10, so I'm doing the under right now, so under 10. All right, we got, I'd say, a small percentage of the room. All right, so the rest of you, over, hands for over 10 SaaS applications. So, based on a recent study, and again, data varies, but Okta, if you're familiar, the identity service, they actually did a survey of 4,000 businesses. A significant percentage were under 250 employees, and they found that they were using 16 SaaS applications in their business, and growing at 40% from the previous year that they did that study. That's a high growth rate. So if it continues growing at that rate, those companies will be using 20-some in the very near future. But I think it's going to grow even faster because you look at segments like marketing automation, where you have this fragmentation of software and the ability for companies to introduce new services so quickly. For example, marketing automation segments estimated that the number of vendors in that segment doubled in 1 year. Went from 1,000 to 2,000 some in 1 year. And so if you look at that and you believe those numbers, the bottom line is your customers are going to be, they're going to be using many SaaS applications. And the thing is they use those SaaS applications, each one is an island of data, right? Because what happens is the APIs don't work together. They have their own data structure, and these applications don't all necessarily work with each other out of the box. So, as we produce new things, and this is what I experienced in my last company, as we produce new things, customers were asking for it to work and have out-of-the-box integrations and work off the shelf with what they already had. Like these resellers that we were working with, if our product didn't work with Autotask, as somebody was mentioning, ConnectWise earlier, or Salesforce, or Sugar, whatever, they wouldn't use it, and they wouldn't buy it, and they wouldn't adopt it. And so they weren't ready to write to our API. We had a great API and all the rest of it. They just wanted an out-of-box integration to work for it, right? And so what we see more and more in the market is that, you'll lose the sale, or we're losing sales, if we don't work with a service that somebody already has, right? If it doesn't integrate and work out of the box, they'll go work with something else, right? And so that becomes a very frequently asked question when somebody comes to your site or a sales cycle, whatever it is, right? Do you work with blank? As we hear all the time. So, to take a look from a perspective from a product owner, right? So you're building an application, you have an application. What are some of the strategies for dealing with this, right? And so the first, I've got a little build problem, but ignore that on the left over there. But anyway, the first step is, right, we build an API. And how many of you have APIs, public APIs for your applications? Nearly everybody in the room, which is awesome, right? So it's fantastic. We publish an API, and that meets a segment of the market, right? They're targeted at developers. It meets developers who can write to that API and integrate and use it, right? And we've integrated to over 100 different applications. So we've seen lots of very good APIs, and we've seen bad APIs. And advice on that front is, as Richard was mentioning earlier and others, is treat it like a product. Your API truly is something that needs to be product managed. Those resources, right, those RESTful resources, a company, a contact, whatever it might be, are the key to somebody being able to adopt your product and leverage it effectively. And those have to be governed and consistent, documented in a consistent way. The authentication mechanism needs to be straightforward, or developers, if they face any resistance, will run and go the other way, right? So the first step, though, to any of the strategies is to have an API, publish that, well-documented, being able to move into the world of integration. The second strategy is often to externalize, and these are not mutually exclusive, right? Companies employ multiple strategies for integration to make their product work together, right, beyond that API. And that externalized integration, things like Zapier, right, they're awesome, right? It's quick, easy, low-cost integration that you can connect, move data, right, and move it in a simple way. And so it meets a need from the consumer wanting that integration. They also have limitations, right? Externalized integration service, somebody leaves your site, right? They leave your application and they're going to another service in terms of ability to integrate, right? They have to do a financial relationship with that other firm, so you're not controlling that and you're putting cost in the way of adoption of your product, right? And again, because it's not under your control, it's not serviced and supported all in one place by your team and your business, right? But that externalized integration oftentimes becomes one of the first points after companies have built their API. The next step is this internalized, pre-built integrations. A lot of companies start looking and saying, okay, great, I've got my API, but I know I need to work with QuickBooks over and over again, as Richard was saying, or I need to work with Salesforce, or Dynamics, or Batchbook, or whatever it might be. And so starting to pre-package, right? And so you see more and more companies building and writing integrations that are internalized, right? That they own the integration from within your application. And targeting which ones that you want to have those internalized integrations, right? You're not going to write an integration to everything, but that idea that what's strategic to your business, what is important that you want to own, because what you can do with an internalized integration is you can have one authentication mechanism. You can have somebody not leave your site. They can integrate to that service right from your application, right from your site. They can, you don't have to charge them for it, right? So if you're offering that integration, they don't have to go to a third-party service and therefore create a financial relationship with somebody else in order to do that. You can embed it in at the cost of your application and offer it for free. So we see that as becoming more and more of a popular strategy, that pre-built experience to other services. And then there's creating marketplaces as well, right? So, companies like AppDirect offering ability to, create and offer a marketplace that you can monetize integrations, or big vendors, obviously, like the Infusionsofts or Salesforces or HubSpots, have those integration marketplaces where third parties will come and just build stuff because it's popular enough to be able to do. And the marketplace, again, has pluses and minuses, right? Sometimes, I heard one company say it's like marketplace roulette. You can't manage the quality of the integration from those marketplaces in terms of what's available, right? Because you're dependent upon third parties. And so the experience is sometimes varies based on what you're providing, etc. So, so those are some of what we've seen for the types of strategies to create this cooperative experience between your application and services. And then at Cloud Elements, what we've focused on is helping companies either create their own integration offering, right? So internalized into their app, right? That's what we do. We're an API-based service that helps people integrate into their app. And what we found is that when you go to that internalized type of strategy, your developers can't keep up, right? There's more and more things that they need to integrate to, and they're building your unique application functionality, and your focus and your priority is to let them build that functionality and not become experts in integration. And part of the challenge, the reason they can't keep up, is integration isn't just about writing to the API. All right, great, I've got an API, I wrote to an API, but the real experience of integration is about connecting things together, synchronizing data, making applications work together, and that data to work together. So we kind of call it the writing to the API, and in the integration world is really the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole other set of services, things you need to do that you either need to write yourself within your application, a platform of services. And these are things you've got to consider when you kind of, as a product owner, you look at what needs to be done from an integration perspective is, how am I going to authenticate? What am I going to do with the refresh keys? How am I going to keep those tokens open? Discovering custom data, right, to make a dynamic integration, right? Can I deal with custom fields and objects within my integration? Transform data, synchronize it. So there's a whole other set of services that become really where you have to either build an integration platform or find or buy a service to do it, right? So what we've presented or provided is a service to be able to do and optimize, covering that full level of integration, not just writing to the API. And so just as a little commercial of how Cloud Elements does it, is we essentially, our focus is to organize this world of APIs. And we organize this world of APIs into categories of services where developers can write to entire categories of services. I need to integrate to marketing automation systems, use one uniform API to do that, or without writing to each individual one, right? So I can offer more integrations and cover that, so when customer, and I can offer more integrations faster. And so as an example, we call them API hubs. So we give developers the ability to organize these hubs any way they want. We have prepackaged ones like for marketing. So you can write to all the leading marketing automation services and use a common set of APIs to deal with contacts, companies, campaigns, and things like that within those services to be able to offer more integrations faster. And so when that customer asks for more, essentially you can offer a whole range of services by integrating to that one API versus having to do them all on a one-off basis. And the idea is to create, the approach that we look at is everything in the world we present as a RESTful resource, and essentially a company, a contact, an invoice that then can be transformed or moved across multiple services and into your application the way you want. So if you have a contact data structure in your application, you want to talk to the rest of the world according to that contact data structure. So we enable you to have everything that has a contact in it look like your contact data structure and allow you to canonicalize that within your application. So uniform APIs that work with things like accounts or structures and you write to those, you can use any service that has those same APIs and write directly to that. And then publish your own integrations catalog on your site that you own and can be the first level of support for, because we embed seamlessly into your app. And so underneath this is a platform of services that essentially, again, are about API consumption. Whether you use our service or build your own, these are the types of things you need to master for API consumption, right? Because it's about integration, right? In integration, you have to not only authenticate to the service, I have to discover data, transform it, make it work together, maybe use bulk services. You have to manage it. You have to have logging, version management, so when APIs change, you don't change it at the other end at the application side. So there's, and then the ability to publish in new services and new integrations. So again, you can manage this catalog of services all in one place. And so again, what we've done is made it all integratable through RESTful services. So instead of building your own data mapping and data transformation service, you can use an API service to do data mapping and transformation and discover custom data, or to synchronize data with events and workflows, or even our customers start using our product and they publish their own connectors into the platform and they create their own integrations to the next thing, so don't even depend on us, right? And do that themselves. And then you can aggregate, and we really, one of the product leaders at Google is like, you know, the keys to mastering integration and APIs in the future is going to be aggregation, because there's so many in particular categories, right? So one of the things we wanted to provide developers is a good set of services that they can aggregate things any way they want, common sets of RESTful resources, right? Because again, this proliferation of so many things, making it easier to connect those together. So, yeah, just as an example of it at work is, you know, HubSpot is one of our customers. HubSpot has a new CRM tool, and one of the things they wanted with that CRM tool is you could either use your existing CRM tool and then move and or migrate data from that into HubSpot. So they used our product to essentially create the HubSpot bulkloader.io product, which is essentially their ability to load data in bulk into their system for multiple CRM endpoints without having to write to each one individually, and use a set of services, right, instead of having to do. They wrote Salesforce themselves, right? That was that one they obviously did first and all the rest of it, and there was the opportunity to do more faster by not having to write all those individually themselves and then use that set of platform services. Now they're adding 4 or 5 other CRM services onto that to, again, provide that seamless capability from others. So, yeah, we're an integration platform built expressly for really application providers. So our customers are primarily SaaS vendors, but also divisions of enterprises that are building and integrating applications. And again, the focus is really just, again, make it easier for developers to create, you know, not have to spend all that time one-off integrations, but make things work together. So that's really what I had just for an overview. Any questions?
So Segment.io is another company like this. Are you tracking increasingly amount of these API companies?
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. And part of what we're doing is we're integrating API hubs into hubs, right? So if there's already a hub in the industry, right? We're not. What we're really, the value of our service is to be able to have that platform set of capabilities, right? I need a data transformation service. I need a discovery service. I need event management in a uniform way, right? How one vendor does webhooks versus another vendor does webhooks, and so being able to present that in, so even a hub service, like we've got Internet of Things services, like, you know, Machine Shop or whatever, we look and say, hey, that's just a hub for certain sets of Internet of Things, be able to publish that into the platform as well. It's just really another set of APIs.
So like we're your customers, so how would we pay you?
Yeah, so our model is you essentially license a hub, right? And so hub, and you can start off with 2 integrations. They're $500 a piece. You can get a hub for $2,500 with integration to multiple services. And then we don't charge by metering by number of API calls or anything like that. It's by number of customers you have using the service. And so that's a fraction of the cost of the initial fee. And so for larger customers like a Zendesk using our service to connect to finance systems, they're paying a couple dollars a month per customer that integrates into that, right? Once they license the hub, right? And so the prices are all on our website as well. But it's a full subscription model.
It's $2,500 a month or upfront?
$2,500 a month for an entire hub, or you can start with one integration, one endpoint at $500 a month. In the hub, we bundle in multiple services and endpoints to that. Yeah. Any other questions? So, thanks.